Okay, so what we're going to talk about is the contractile aspects of the shoulder. So we'll start off anteriorly and try and work our way around to the posterior. Apologies if I forget some muscles and stop and start. So we'll begin with, we've got the anterior, we've got pectoralis major, and that origin is the body of the sternum, the manubrium in the medial aspect of the clavicle, and that insertion is the crest of the greater tubercle of the humerus. In the actions of the pectoralis major, it flexes the shoulder, it adducts the shoulder, it extends the shoulder, and it medially rotates the shoulder, so this action here. Then we have the pectoralis minor, which origin is the outer surfaces of the ribs 3 to 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so here, and its insertion is the coracoid process of the scapula, and what that does is it, retracts the scapula and it depresses the scapula, and it also medially rotates the scapula as well. So that's the pectoralis minor. What else we've got going on here? We've got we'll talk about the biceps as well. The biceps are also known to be with the, associated with the elbow, but they also have movements with the shoulder. So the biceps, it's got two heads. It's got a long head and a short head. The long head comes through the biceptural groove and inserts to the supraglenoid tubercle of the scapula, and it inserts to the deltoid tuberosity of the radius. The short head attaches to the coracoid process of the scapula, comes down and inserts the radial tuberosity. And the movements of what the actions of this muscle does, it flexes the shoulder, but it's also known a little bit, it's a flexor of the elbow and a supinator also. So that's the biceps. Then we've got the deltoid. The deltoid's divided in anterior, medial and posterior fibres. The anterior fibres origin is the lateral third of the clavicle, and it inserts to the deltoid tuberosity of the humerus. The anterior fibres flex the shoulder. They also medially rotate the shoulder and abduct the shoulder. Then we've got the medial fibres, where they originate from the acromion process, and they insert to the deltoid tuberosity of the humerus again. And that main movement there is abduction of the shoulder. Then we'll talk about the posterior fibres of the shoulder, and the origin of that is the lateral 2/3 of the spine of scapula, and it inserts to the deltoid tuberosity again of the humerus. And the posterior fibres extend the shoulder, horizontal extend the shoulder, laterally rotate the shoulder also. And that's the deltoid muscles. And then we'll talk about the I forgot the muscle, the anterior, apologies. We've got serratus anterior and subscapularis. Serratus anterior origin is the outer surface of the first rib to the 8th or 9th, depending on the person. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So here, and the insertion is the anterior medial column of the anterior medial column of the scapula, and what that does is that laterally rotates the scapula, and it also protracts the scapula also, and that's the serratus anterior. Then we've got the subscapularis, that originates from the subscapularis fossa and inserts to the lesser tubercle of the humerus, just here, and what that does is that immediately rotates the shoulder and extends the shoulder as well. So yeah, making our way back to the posterior side, we've got the infraspinatus here, which origin is the infraspinatus fossa, and it inserts to the, put that there, the greater tubercle of the humerus, and what that does is that laterally rotates the shoulder. Then we've got supraspinatus, which sits up here, just superior to it, and that attaches to the greater tubercle of the humerus, and that abducts the shoulder as well. So there's that. What else can we talk about? Said that. We've got teres minor and teres major. teres minor is one of the four muscle bellies that form the rotator cuff, and that the other four of the teres minor, subscapularis, infraspinatus, and there's one more, and supraspinatus. That's the four that make your rotator cuff. So teres minor, the insertion is the upper 1/3 of the lateral border of the scapula, and it inserts to the posterior aspect of the greater tubercle, and that adducts the arm and laterally rotates the shoulder. Then we've got teres minor, which is just below that, and that the origin is the let's think. The lateral border just before the inferior angle, so this area here, and that inserts. Unlike the teres minor where it comes there, the teres major actually comes in front and inserts to the anterior medial aspect of the proximal humerus. And with that coming in like that, that extends the arm and also adducts the shoulder, extends the shoulder and adducts the shoulder as well. So that's the teres minor and teres major. Then we've got rhomboid minor and rhomboid major. Rhomboid minor is from C7 to T1, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So spinous process of C7 to T1, and it inserts to the just below the superior angle, so the upper portion of the medial border of the scapula. And what that does is that stabilizes the scapula, retracts the scapula, and then elevates the scapula as well, and it upwardly rotates the scapula. Then we've got rhomboid major, which fits just underneath it, and that's the spinous processes of T2, so T2, 3, 4, 5 to T5, and that comes on and inserts just below the teres minor of the medial border of the scapula, and it works its way down just on the medial aspect of the inferior angle. And that does the same actions as the teres minor. So we've got stabilization of the scapula, retraction, elevation, and downwardly rotation of the scapula. So that's the rhomboid minor and rhomboid major. Now we'll talk about the trapezius muscle. The trapezius divided in upper, middle, and lower fibers. It originates from the external protuberance of the occipital bone, which is just up here, and also it comes to the spinous processes of C1 to T12, so it's all the way down there, and that's the origin. And it inserts to the spine of scapula, the acromion, and the lateral 1/3 of the clavicle. And the actions of this, the upper fibers extend the neck and head. It elevates the scapula, and we've got the it upwardly rotates the scapula as well. Then we've got the middle fibers, which retract the scapula, so over known as adduct the scapula. And we've got the lower fibers that depress the scapula and assist with the upper fibers to upwardly rotate the scapula. So that's the trapezius muscles there. Then we'll talk about the levator scapula, which originates from the transverse processes of C1 to C4, so C1, 2, 3, 4, spinous processes here, and that inserts to the medial border and the superior angle of the scapula. And what that does is that flexes the head and neck, and it also elevates the scapula as well. So that's levator scapula there. What else we've got going on here? We've got the latissimus dorsi. That origin is the inferior angle of the scapula to T7 to L5, and the outer surfaces of the lower 3 ribs and the iliac crest. And that's the origin of it, and it comes round and it inserts to the bicipital groove. And the actions of the latissimus dorsi, it adducts the shoulder, it extends the shoulder, and immediately rotates the shoulder as well. That's the latissimus dorsi. So I'm just going to have a quick scan around, see if I forgot anything. Traps, rhomboids, there. What else have we got? We've got, I forgot coracobrachialis, sorry. coracobrachialis originates from the coracoid process, and it inserts to the medial aspect of the humerus, and that is the adductor and flexor of the shoulder, and it also immediately rotates the shoulder. So what else have we got? Just double checking. I think that's all of them. Thanks for watching.